Hello, everyone. My name is Andrew Knack. I am the City Councilor here in Ward 1, which is the west end of the City of Edmonton. I am joined today by Diana Steele from the Crestwood Community League. She serves as the president of that community league. And what we're doing, I've been doing a number of conversations with different business leaders, community leaders, different organizations that are doing great work, not just in the ward, but actually beyond across the city. And wanted to take an opportunity to talk to Diana because, I mean, we've been very fortunate that all community leagues in the West End have been really stepping up during this time, during the pandemic, to fill in gaps, to help support residents within their communities. So I could interview essentially every single one of them to talk about the great stories, but I've had the opportunity to see a lot of the work Diana's been doing, particularly in engaging a lot of the other communities around around Crestwood. So Diana, I'd like to turn the floor over to you to introduce yourself to everyone who's watching.
Okay, thank you, Andrew. And thank you for interviewing me today. I'm so excited to talk about, obviously, Crestwood and the surrounding communities. So I've been the president of Crestwood for about 4 years now, actually 4 years in June, so 4 years now. We have 27 members on our board. We are the oldest community league, believed to be the oldest community league in North America. We are 103 years old this year, and we are actually older than EFCL. So I'm quite proud to lead Crestwood. It is a spectacular community with the most amazing residents. I'm a little biased, but
I won't pick favorites because we represent all of Ward 1 and in fact all of the City of Edmonton. So I don't have a favorite community league, but you are correct, and I can agree that Crestwood is by far the oldest, and it's very fascinating to see that, and it's interesting in Ward 1 because we have the oldest community league in the city, if not North America, and we also have all the way to some of the newest ones and everything in between. So it's interesting to see both the differences, but also the similarities that actually do exist between community leagues, new and old. So you'd be surprised, and well, you wouldn't be because you've been involved and engaged with community leagues across the city. So I wanted to ask you, so we've got some questions I've been asking everyone as we do these videos, and we're in the middle of a pandemic still. I mean, it's hard to sort of think about, as things have been relaunching, we've almost forgotten that aspect that we're still in something that is very serious. And I know Crestwood as a community, and in fact, the residents in the surrounding neighborhoods have really stepped up. And I wanted to ask about how COVID's impacted the Crestwood Community League and the surrounding areas. And what you've done, I'm going to turn it a little bit into this opportunities question, because I know that you've really stepped up to bring together so many people to help serve members. So do you want to chat a little bit about how you've been impacted and how you've responded to all of that?
Sure. Well, first of all, we got the notice. Obviously, we went into a state of emergency, local emergency, and we got the notice from EFCL that we had to cancel and close our hall. So everything needed to shut down. We had to cancel weddings and events and lock down our basketball courts. Our skating rink at that time was still functioning. Tennis courts were closed. Everything's been closed, playgrounds and all of that. So what we found immediately is that the residents were going to require a little bit of, and all of us did really, just a little bit of nurturing, because everyone was scared. Everyone was suddenly feeling trapped in their neighborhood.
Yeah.
And our role as the board was to just let everyone know in Crestwood in particular that the community league was here. Even though we were not open for business, we were not functioning in any way, we were going to take on a different role. So my role became to make a video every single day. So I've been doing that. I also then started working out of the boardroom in the hall, which meant that even if it was simply you were walking through the neighborhood and you wanted to come and wave at the window and not come inside because we wanted to practice social distancing, we made sure that that was available to people. I put my phone number out on the internet, which probably wasn't the greatest idea ever, but I made sure that people could call me anytime, text me anytime if they had any questions. We immediately created a COVID response task team so that we could, and we partnered with Andy's IGA in Parkview so that we could deliver groceries, which originally started out to just be people who were immunocompromised or who were self-isolating. But then Jeff of Andy's IGA had decided that he wanted to keep as many people out of the store as he could to protect his employees. So we just started delivering to anyone. And then as a result, we were contacted by Christians in Developments in the city here. And we partnered with them to deliver to seniors complexes that they work with or run. So we really just tried to fill the gaps that the city can't obviously take on those roles, right? So instead of becoming a hall that offered programming and ran soccer and did all those sort of fun things day to day, we really took on a nurturing role and just shifted straight into that.
That's excellent. So do you think, and maybe it's a question that's a simple answer, but as we begin to move into a relaunch and as we start to, I think everyone's saying we're not going to go back to normal, whatever the term is, whether it's new normal, better normal, I don't really care, new reality. There's going to be different ways to do things. Do you see the work that you've been doing, maybe not in the exact same way during the pandemic, but do you see that sort of continuing as we go forward? Do you see a role for the community leagues to play in helping to fill that gap even after the pandemic is over?
I do. I don't see it ending. First of all, the pandemic, as you've mentioned, we don't see an end anytime soon. So I can see us maintaining this position at least for the next year or so. And, I think, and as long as Andy's wants to continue working with us, and as long as people are still sitting at home and they require groceries to be delivered, we will continue to hold that position until the day that the world announces that it's over and we can all go back to normal lives, whatever that looks like at that time. But no, I don't see an end to the way that Crestwood is dealing with this or any of the surrounding neighborhoods. I don't see an end to that anytime soon.
That's excellent.
And we're happy to keep functioning in this way as well.
Absolutely. And again, you've been serving well beyond the borders of Crestwood right now. You mentioned that partnership with Christians in Developments, but I believe, if I remember correctly, you've got residents in Parkview, Laurier, McQueen, Glenora, Grosvenor, yeah. And so you've brought together volunteers from across all of those communities to actually help out with this and to make sure that as many people as possible can be served. That's right?
Absolutely it is, yeah. I mean, we would go further than that if we could.
No, that's great. Well, and we've actually seen the model of what you've done start to be picked up by other areas, in their own way to help fill those gaps that do exist for residents in those neighborhoods. So really appreciate the leadership that you put forward to help create that, because like you say, it was filling a gap that I don't think anyone else was going to be able to meet, and it I think has really helped residents in those neighborhoods feel more connected at a time where a lot of us feel disconnected.
Yes, definitely.
Absolutely. Well, the other questions I want to ask a little bit about is related to the city is beginning our relaunch strategy, and we've been talking about, there's a lot of talk, particularly around the financial aspect of that, what we need to do to rebound economically, how we need to grow the business as a region. But there's a lot more to the relaunch than just the economy. And we can't forget that. And in fact, community leagues do play a role in that. But there's other work that we're doing. So we have some other initiatives that we've started up. One's related to urban places, talking about how we're building those complete communities. And I think this pandemic has shown sometimes the gaps that exist in some communities that maybe don't have access to a lot of nearby services. That impacts health as well. That impacts a variety of different things. So in the work that's been going on, and I know you followed some of it, do you see, your area, and I think, but when we talk about your area, not just talking about the Crestwood residents, we're talking about community leagues in general. Do you see that the community leagues are going to play an active role in helping to relaunch the city in a variety of areas? And then likewise, I think I want to ask the question, if you feel there are gaps right now based off what you've seen so far, and knowing that we're still early days in this, and so there's a lot more work to do, but from where you're at today, what do you see as maybe something that the city needs to be focusing on a little more closely as well?
Okay, so, and I think I've actually mentioned this to you before because I've given this a lot of thought. And I'm going to start on a more sort of global picture, and then I'm going to narrow it down to answer your question.
Excellent.
You know, we've got obviously the top tier in Canada is the federal government, and their role is to take care of Canada and continue the functioning of our country, and amongst all the challenges that have come with the pandemic. And then you sort of bring that layer down a little bit to the provinces and territories. So in here, for us, we've got the provincial government of Alberta, and they obviously need to maintain the functioning of the province and amongst all of the challenges in a pandemic that come with that. And then you take it even smaller to the cities and the towns that are within the provinces or the territories. And you guys need to make sure that we are functioning. So buses are running and essential services are still being provided. And then obviously you guys have a ton of challenges that you need to face. So then we can bring it down to the lowest level, which is local community leagues or local communities. And then local community leagues, and then EFCL will include the Edmonton Federation of Community Leagues in there as well. And essentially what I have seen, and this is to answer your question, what is the role of community leagues moving forward? I have watched so many community leagues absolutely step it up. Like their game has gone from just being a functioning board in a neighborhood that throws a barbecue here and there and, you know, has Santa Claus come to the hall in December to say hello to all the children. I've watched them go from that to Bill Bowers reading a book every night to his entire community or anyone who wants to follow him on social media. I've watched a 50-person task team deliver groceries to anyone in Edmonton. Like community leagues recognized that the Canadian government cannot solve all our problems. The Alberta government cannot solve all our problems. And the city of Edmonton cannot solve all our problems. Every single person has to rise up. So I hope my desire or end goal here would be that the city, and I think the city has an excellent relationship with community leagues to begin with and EFCL, but to just be able to say, hey, you know what? Community leagues do play a very important role. And so moving forward, we can never discount them again, because when the chips were down and we needed help, who came to our aid and who stepped up and who took on a leadership role? So no, they're not going anywhere.
Well, no, I'm glad to hear that, and I think you're right, and you know, I think about one of the things that's being worked on right now between the city and the community leagues and the EFCL is the new tripartite agreement. And for those who are unaware, this is agreement that is between the city, the EFCL, and the community leagues. And it talks a lot about just how things will operate, how the halls can be used, and there's a whole bunch into that. But as I think about recreating that, we're getting ready to, or so we're in the process of renegotiating it, and there's so much potential in that, because I look at, you know, many of you know, I used to be on my own community league. I served on the Metal Air Community League and the Jasper Park Community League before my time on council. And, you know, I think even something as simple as our halls are often really underutilized. And it's because, in part, there are some restrictions that really create that. So, you know, if somebody wanted to, right now you can't, and I know there's even sometimes it does happen, but we won't talk about that, you can't rent out hall space to somebody who's going to make a profit. Even if that person making a profit is running a community program, they want to do a yoga class or they want to do some type of course for people, and if they make money, that's technically not allowed in how we want to use these spaces. Yeah. You know, we have some halls that have these beautiful commercial kitchens, and wouldn't it be awesome if a community league could say, we're going to lease out that space for X dollars a month to a small startup, you know, restaurateur, you know, somebody who's a chef who wants to get started and build up their own business. And they're going to open up the doors of the community league hall every day from 2 to 5 to let people come in and enjoy a meal or enjoy a snack. And this doesn't have to be, yeah, take cooking lessons, and it doesn't have to compete with other businesses in the community league that could fill a different gap. So let's take advantage of that. Let's think about how we're going to use these community spaces in ways that will only help strengthen our community. So I love what you're talking about. Yeah, community leagues are definitely not going away, and there's a huge role for them to play in the future.
Well, and I think they've become even more visible than they were before because of the pandemic.
Absolutely, absolutely. Well, really appreciate those answers. And before we wrap up, I just wanted to hear from you. How can people stay involved? I mean, I'm not just talking about residents of Crestwood, because I think part of the reason why I wanted to chat with a number of community league presidents is that I want to hear from you around both how can residents hear from Crestwood specifically, but how can people stay involved? How are you communicating? How can people learn more about all of this great work that's going on?
Well, for us, they can find us on all social media. So we have a Crestwood Twitter account, we have a Crestwood Instagram and Facebook page, and then I have a different page as well that includes all of the sort of current neighborhoods that, or the sort of surrounding neighborhoods like Parkview, Crestwood, Glenora, Grosvenor, McQueen, North Glenora, that kind of thing. So that's a Facebook page as well that's pretty active. I think there's almost 16 or 1700 people on that page. And I post on all of our forums every single day. So as I mentioned, I make a video every day. You can find that on Crestwood's Twitter or any social media. Anytime there's a notice from the city or EFCL, I make sure to put all of that information online. So I don't update the website as much. I'm not as good as that at that because I don't know why. I should really get better at the website, but the social media is very active, and it's updated multiple times a day. I'm not putting anything up. Oh, I was going to say I'm not putting anything up today, but today will be a different to who knows when this video is going to air. So we'll skip that for a second. But yeah, every day that social media is updated with all current information. So if you are looking to find out anything that's going on in our neighborhoods, that's where you want to go.
Excellent. Yeah, so you've let everyone in on our behind the scenes, which is that I'm doing a bunch of videos in a short amount of time, in part because I subscribed to a Zoom account for 1 month to see how it would work. And so I'm like bringing them all in a short amount of time, and then over the course of time, I'm going to be releasing them. And that's fine. That's a good, I like to let people behind the curtains to see how everything's working. And appreciate you sharing that. How can people follow you specifically on social media? Because I know, again, you've been doing great work sharing positive messages through your videos. So I think it'd be nice to know if people can just follow you on social media as well. So how can they do that?
Yeah, I mean, I have my own personal accounts as well. So they're just my name, Diana Steele. I'm not creative. I don't have anything spectacular on Twitter. I don't have a great Twitter handle. It's just Diana Steele. I'm super boring. But yeah, that's how you can find me. Again, I'm just someone who tries to spread the love, like you said, and I'm all about positivity and keeping things as collaborative as I possibly can, because that's the only way anything's going to get done, in my opinion. So yeah.
Excellent. Well, thank you. And again, just thank you for the work you've been doing. Again, what I have really appreciated, you talked about that positivity, that positive message. It is a tough time for so many people for so many different reasons, whether it's financial impacts because of the pandemic, whether it's social impacts because they're not able to be connected, and you name it. There's people who are struggling with different parts of this, or multiple parts and multiple issues. And so what I've been really appreciating during this time is you're out there trying to bring together people, connect people, make sure they know that there are people there to help, and that we can, by working together, get through this. So thank you so much for the work that you've done, your leadership in that area, and building stronger communities and really a stronger city through your work. It means a lot, and I know the people who have been following the work that you're doing have just been so happy that you're there and a voice that has been building this up. So thanks so much for taking the time to chat with me. I really appreciate it.
Well, can I just add one more thing before you go?
Of course, yes.
I saw a quote today by Jack Layton, and I thought, you know what, I'm gonna get Andrew to let me say that today.
Please do, yes.
Just given everything that's happening in the world right now, as you mentioned, you outlined all of the the sort of fallout from the pandemic, but also we've got some concerns with racism and things that are happening in the moment right now. So I saw this quote from Jack, and I wanted to read it to you. So it says, "Love is better than anger. Hope is better than fear. Optimism is better than despair. So let us be loving, hopeful, and optimistic, and we'll change the world." And I know, Andrew, that is how you live your life, and I know that is how I live mine. And if we could all just take a little bit of that, the world would be such a better place. So if I were to leave with a message today, just find a way to be collaborative and find all the love you can in your heart, and the world will be better. It just will.
That is a fantastic way to end today. So thank you so much for sharing that. And those words are really important, especially at this time. So it's been a pleasure chatting with you. Thank you so much. And I know the people of Edmonton will see you around continuing to build up our communities.
Thank you.
Have a great day. Thank you.
You too. Thank you.